And this is Jay Taft once again with your weekly sports podcast, Not Just a Game, at rrstar.com and Rockford Register Star over here. And Rockford right now is a mini Jacksonville, Florida, with our guy James Robinson starting for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this week's guest, we got to have Maurice Jones-Drew on if we're going to talk Jacksonville Jaguars rushing game, especially. Who else to do it? So, Maurice, thank you so much for joining us. And I know you're a busy man, especially game day. This Jaguars Dolphins tonight, so you're busy as heck. Thank you so much, and let's jump right into it. First of all, as we talked off air there, you've gotten to see enough of this kid, this James Robinson, to know you weren't surprised by this, but like a lot of people were you?
Not necessarily. Sometimes, guys can get drafted into schemes that don't suit what they do or fit what they do. And you'll see a kind of a drop down. I think every player that comes out in the draft is talented, but depending on if is your talent kind of unschemable where you can play in any scheme, or is it talent where you need to be in the perfect scheme to showcase your abilities? I feel like James Robinson was in the second one where he needed to be in a scheme that showcased his ability and his vision. He does a great job of reading his blocks when linemen pull. He does a great job of keeping his shoulders square and running downhill. And then when you saw in the Senior Bowl, he really showcased his abilities there. And so he showcased, and this is the thing, a lot of guys, when they don't get drafted, you don't really hear about a lot of things. He ended up in a situation in Jacksonville where it was pretty much wide open. The Jags had been trying to trade Leonard Fournette, so anyone could come in there and play. And, from what I've understood and what I've heard from a lot of people that were watching training camp was that he was just the best running back, the best player offensively, just in general. And so they knew that he had he had the ability to go out there and make plays. And I give credit to Jay Gruden and that staff of really putting him in positions to be successful, because the NFL, everyone's talented. In the NFL, it's all about confidence, though. And James Robinson has a ton of confidence now. And after a couple of weeks of playing, you can see the burst, you can see the speed, and it's a much different burst than I saw on tape when he was at Illinois State. So you can tell he's comfortable and he's doing things that he likes to do and that he's comfortable doing, and he's excelling at it.
Boy, you made a great point. He fell right into the perfect situation for that kid with the rest of the situation, with the other running backs, with the way the coaches were looking young and wanting to go young and hoping they could. He just fit right in and caught eyes really fast. Now, you spent 9 seasons in the NFL, 8 with the Jaguars. You came in a little different way. You came from UCLA, a little more hype. People knew a little bit more about what they were getting with you. You still had to earn your way. In this league, you have to earn everything you get. But talk about how James was able to kind of creep in there, undrafted the way he was, and he didn't really sneak in on anybody over there, but I would say in the league he did.
Well, I think he did still. From my understanding, there's a story that's kind of been circling the media that, there was a scout there for the Jags who thought he had got drafted and didn't know. And so that happens a ton too, because you got to think there's thousands of players that can get drafted and only 256 get that opportunity. And so once that's done, the guys start hitting, the free agent market for rookies, trying to figure out who's who. And so I guess the scout went home, was like, look, man, I'm trying to find a running back, blah, blah, blah. And his wife was like, hey, there's this guy that you told me you loved, James Robinson. He's still out there. And the guy looked at his wife like, no, he's not. He got drafted. And they went through the list and saw that he didn't get drafted, obviously made the call and got him in. So it has to be someone that likes you and that obviously wants to see you perform well. And so he got that opportunity. Things work for a reason. I feel like James he got an opportunity, made the best of that opportunity, and now he has another opportunity, which is, being the starting running back for one of the 32 teams in the NFL. And no matter how you get in this thing, and very similar to my situation, I mean, I've seen guys get drafted higher than I was or drafted later than I was that got an opportunity and didn't take advantage of it. You have to take advantage of your opportunities. And again, like I said, it comes I was lucky that I ran a pro style offense in college, so that when I got to the NFL, I could just jump right in and play. A lot of these other kids, they're coming from these different offenses and wildcat or spread this or that, and then they have to learn a brand new offense when they get to the NFL. The one thing that James had is that Illinois State runs a power offense, and so they run a very similar offense to the NFL. So when you got him in there, he didn't have to learn as much, which means he doesn't have to think as much. He could just play and react, and that's when you want to play fast. And so he had that notch on a couple other guys, and like I said, he has the ability. Everyone, when you get to this point, they weed you out in college if you don't have the ability. I mean, you knew he had the ability because he went to the combine. You knew he had the ability because of his tape. Now it comes down to playing fast and playing at the highest level, and he's showing that the last 2 weeks.
I think the questions at time with James had been, did he have the burst for that next level? Now I think you played at 5'7", about 210. Was that your playing size?
Yeah, I was between 208 and 212.
Okay.
I mean, they depend on the year.
And James is about 5'9", 219. Do you consider yourselves similar style running backs? I don't know.
I think my style was a little bit different than his. I wasn't a jumper. I can tell you that much. I did not try to leave my feet at all. But I was trained and raised by other backs that had played before me, like Eric Bieniemy, who's the OC for the Kansas City Chiefs. So my style is very similar to what he ran. When I see James, our stature is very similar. But I think James, his ability to run, to catch the ball out of the backfield was a little bit better than mine when I first got in the league, and I had to improve that as I went on. And so he has a notch there. I think both our running abilities, being able to break tackles and having that contact balance is very important. He has that as well. And I think where I separate myself from him is I was a faster guy. I ran 4.3 coming out of college. So that's where I separated myself from him. But they're very comparable attributes that we have. I just think there's certain things that we do differently that he excels at, and then there's things that I did that I excelled at as well.
Little different strengths you guys had. You mentioned catching the ball out of the backfield. It was a nightmare covering this kid at times back when he was in high school, because about a third of his runs, we'd have to go back and watch on the tape to see if it was a pass or a run. They just were constantly swinging, either jumping or swinging, and he got chunks of yardage in that as he was growing into a football player. So it's almost like a natural thing for him.
Yeah, it's very similar for me as well. When I was in high school, I played a lot of receiver. It's when I got to college, it was a little bit different. And so I didn't run as many routes out of the backfield. I didn't do a lot of that. I kind of was a running back. But like I said, when you watch James and what he was doing at Illinois State, he showed a little bit of everything. And that's what we want. You want versatility in the game now. You want to be the Christian McCaffreys, the Alvin Kamara's, the Saquon Barkleys, right? You want to have a versatile back that can do a little bit of everything. And he showed that in week one that he could do everything. And so I think tonight a lot of people are going to see on Thursday night that he's going to be utilized a ton of different ways, especially with other guys being out. They're going to try to put him in positions to be successful, and that's going to be getting him the ball in space.
His 164 rushing yards, the most for any undrafted player in NFL history. It's almost just feels weird even saying that. And again, that he's kind of creeping under the radar, maybe until tonight.
Well, this is the thing in Jacksonville, and I always try to tell people, you don't get a lot of national media attention. You have to earn it there, where some guys can go to New York, have a couple big games, and all of a sudden they're all world. Or, you play for the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Dallas Cowboys, they get a ton of coverage. In Jacksonville, you have to earn it. And so he's starting that. And you have to play well when you get these primetime games. And I think he will. Again, a lot of people will learn more and more about him and this team as they continue to play well and win games or be in close games against quality opponents. And so, again, let me be honest here, I was shocked by how good the Jags have played. I'm not in that building as I used to be. but you hear rumors. And so rumors sometimes is like, maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. But at this point, they said that James Robinson was going to be a guy, and they couldn't wait to see him, and he earned the right to start. And you rarely hear that in the NFL, that they give guys opportunities to play. But he did so much throughout training camp and understanding that system and playing fast that, here you go. Here you have it.
Were the rumors the tank word? I heard the rumors that
No question. I was definitely one. I mean, it's hard to see when you cut a lot and trade a lot of your great players away to not use the T word. But I think, again, they have something in that they want to do. And we're starting to see, we're seeing that. So tanking only comes when you don't win games. So right now the Jags are 1-1. They got to keep winning. And I truly believe that if they continue to play the way they're playing offensively, they'll be winning a lot of games.
Now, in 2011, I think you set the Jags single season rushing record, right?
Yeah.
1,606 yards. This young kid out of ISU, he doesn't have you worrying about that kind of mark yet, right?
I mean, to be honest with you, records are meant to be broken. So if he's the one that goes and gets it, that's awesome. I broke Fred Taylor's record.
That's right.
And so that's never been anything. I want someone to break it. That means the Jags are having a good season if they're running the ball that much, right?
Sure.
And so I hope that he goes out there and he goes and gets it. I hope this team goes out there and they go and win games and they can put those type of numbers up. If he does, awesome. If he doesn't, it's another year that I'll be, waiting for someone to break it.
Yeah, cracking that bottle of champagne at the end of each season. What is it about this team? Was week one a smokescreen? And I agree they looked good last week as well, but a loss is a loss. What can you tell from 2 weeks of this overall team?
You can't tell much. It takes you about, if you use the preseason, it takes you 3 weeks to really figure out what your team is going to be. That's what the preseason is for.
Yeah. Right.
So I always wait until week 3 or 4 to kind of figure out either preseason or regular season because of the pandemic of what it should be. So I'm expecting to see good things tonight, and then probably next week I'll be able to tell you what this team is going to be. But at the end of the day, they only can, and I think they've said it best, they only can write their destiny. Like, they only can write their story. So hopefully it's going to be a great one. It started off great. A lot of guys that a lot of people don't know. A lot of people have counted out.
Wow.
And we'll see how it goes. Again, these guys are playing with a chip on their shoulder, and they're doing some great things.
That's what makes it so much fun to root for. I mean, they've got that story behind them that, that people kind of cling to. Maurice Jones-Drew recently named number 4 all-time Jags on the best player list. Pretty cool for you. Let's finish with this. What would you say? I'm assuming you don't pop in, especially in COVID days that we're in. You're not popping into the locker room too often, not getting to see these guys. If you got to sit down with James Robinson, have lunch with him or something, what kind of advice would you throw his way?
Continue to learn. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned throughout my career is continue to try to soak up as much game and knowledge as possible. In the off season is the best time. Watch the other backs that have been successful in this league and try to take some of their game and put it in yours. I did that a lot. And then, make sure you train hard every off season. Some guys are different. They like to wait to train. I always just started, 2 or 3 weeks after the season, started working out, getting back into it. But I think those 3 things: understanding, getting, being a student of the game with your coaches, looking at all the top players in the league and what they do well and what they don't do well, and trying to emulate some of the stuff that they do well and that makes sense to you. Like, I'll give you a great example. Adrian Peterson, when we were all around the same time, he had a stiff arm. Well, I only could pull the stiff arm out once or twice a year because my arms aren't as long. But I knew when I could, because the defenders that I pulled out against, they would lean forward. So if a guy was a leaner, I would just pull it out and stiff arm him. But again, that wasn't in my game. I never was a stiff armor in high school or in college or even in Pop Warner for that matter. I just took that as I got older. A spin move or whatever. Maybe it's running routes like Christian McCaffrey, understanding how he runs it, and then getting with a receiver coach to do those things. always trying to evolve your game. If you can evolve your game, I think that's when you really become special. And so that's what I would tell them. I think everybody wants to be special. It's just learning how to do it.
Pick up bits and pieces from all the greats. You look like you could still stink and play, man.
I'm getting back. I'm getting back there.
You look like you could get right into the pads and run over people. Maurice Jones-Drew, thank you, buddy. I really appreciate it. This, again, a busy day for you, so thanks for taking some time.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
We'll talk again soon. Let's keep talking, all right?
All right. No problem.